Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and today I want to talk to you about something pretty bleak, about the X-Men fates that were worse than death.
Because my life
Because
is
if
very
there's one
cheery.
thing that we know about comic books, is that while we get to see moments of pure heroism, pure good
Pure
and
joy,
greatness in
pure
the world,
comedic.
there is an opposite and equal side when it comes to pain and suffering. We have seen our favourite heroes go through the absolute worst of
And
times,
some of them
to the
at
point where
multiple
it's
times.
very uncomfortable to even read about what's going on. But today, we're going to have to take a look at it when it concerns the X-Men, as I'm Jules, this is
My favourite group of
WhatCulture.com.
mutants.
These are 10 X-Men fates worse than death. Number 10. Telepathy is torture. In the film
What?
Logan, we learned that Professor X accidentally killed the X-Men with his telepathy after his powers spiraled out of control. As terrifying as that sounds, his powers have actually proven to be even more dangerous in the
How?
comics. In X-Men Legacy number 208, we learned that the X-Men's mentor was driven nearly insane during the Korean War because his telepathy caused him to unintentionally absorb all of the terror of the soldiers around
Oh
him.
my God,
To
that
avoid
sounds like
going mad,
horrifying.
he sealed all of his negative thoughts in a deep corner of his mind.
And then
Decades
that
later, these
negative
dark
emotion
emotions magnified,
got
turning him
got
into a
let
being
loose.
of pure hate and psionic energy that was known as Onslaught.
Oh,
The
this
heroes
is
of
how
Earth managed to
Onslaught was
defeat this
born.
creature, but only after it killed hundreds of civilians.
Oh, that's
Despite
so-
all of
that's so
the good that
horrifying.
Xavier has done for the world, his telepathy has repeatedly proven to be a danger on a
The telepathy is such an amazing power, one that I would kill, but downfalls of it is insane. The negative side of telepathy is so cruel. Sometimes don't think about it because it's such a good one, but
cataclysmic scale. Number 9. Losing mutant powers. Because mutants are labelled as a danger to society, they have to constantly put up with
How is
slurs,
that
hate
worse than
crimes,
death? I
death
don't get
threats,
it.
and violence. Nevertheless, most mutants would never give up their abilities.
It's their
So what
identity.
happens when a mutant loses their gifts?
Scarlet
When Storm's
Witch.
powers were neutralised, she felt crippled
Oh,
since she
this
could
was
no
like
longer
in
soar
the
through the
animated
skies, and so
series.
sank into a deep depression. When Blob lost his powers, his bulk vanished, leaving him with a huge amount of excess skin. He
Oh
was
my
so
God, that's
devastated he tried to
horrifying.
slit his wrists, but failed because his skin was too thick. After Wolverine's healing factor was disabled, he felt genuine terror since he was forced to face his own mortality. Having powers may make one a target, but the majority of mutants wouldn't have it any other way. Number 8. Fracture.
But that's because it's their identity. Mutants are always scared, but like you grow up, you live your whole life with something that defines you so much, then you snatch it away, and you have to live a whole new life without it. It's horrifying. It's like being in, like growing up in a normal country and all of a sudden you're at war. That's a real thing that people are going through.
Fracturing your mind into 1,000 pieces. Charles Xavier's
This
son
sounds
David
Xavier
can
again.
give himself any power that he desires,
That
making him
sounds like an
theoretically
amazing
the most
power.
powerful mutant on Earth. Sadly, he's unable to control his abilities since he suffers from schizophrenia and dissociative identity
Oh my
disorder.
God, that sounds like a
Every time he gives
cocktail
himself a
for
new power, his
disaster.
psyche splits into a new personality.
Oh
Over
my
the years,
God.
he's created over 1,000 alters, each with their own unique mutation.
Split now sounds like it was lazy. Talk about freaking having character definition.
Legion can feel his personalities constantly wrestling for control over his body, making every moment of his existence completely unbearable.
That's
When Xavier
horrifying.
learns of this, he entered his son's mind to compartmentalize his more insidious alters into a mental
Entering his
prison.
mind
but when
sounds like
Legion's
it's
father died, he had a
a
mental
nightmare
breakdown,
scenario.
releasing every one of these identities. Legion lives in constant fear that one of his alters will consume the world or irreparably
really need to
destroy the
watch that
timeline, and
series.
so has convinced himself that
I
he's
need to
too
watch the
dangerous
Legion
to
show.
exist. But because of the unique nature of his mutation, killing himself only ends the life of one of his alters. Despite his best efforts, Legion has no idea how to permanently end his existence.
Oh my God.
Number 7. Being programmed to kill. Weapon
Winter
X
Soldier?
intended Wolverine to be their own personal weapon, designed for
Sounds like
Black
the
Ops
Winter
missions and
Soldier,
eliminating
Bucky
their
Barnes
rivals.
scenario.
Although they designed him to be a mindless creature who would kill without hesitation, Wolverine regained his humanity and dedicated his life to being a superhero. Since Splinter Cells of Weapon X saw Wolverine as a failure, they decided to devise another living weapon. Dr. Xander Rice, the son of a Weapon X scientist, created a female clone of Wolverine called X-23 to serve as his personal assassin. Much like Logan, however, X-23 betrayed her benefactor after she realized that she was being manipulated. However, Rice had a backup plan. When X-23 was young,
X-24?
Rice exposed her to a trigger scent, causing her to kill everyone in the vicinity. No matter how hard she tries, she will go into instant kill mode as soon as she detects this scent. Over the years,
imagine going into instant kill mode, then coming out of it and seeing a freaking ocean of blood at your feet. That's nightmare scenario.
This conditioning has caused her to murder her teachers, her friends, her fellow superheroes, and her mother. What makes this condition worse is that it is irreversible. X-23 will never be free of it, and thus has to accept that she can turn on anyone, including her friends and loved ones.
That needs to be in the
warning.
MCU.
Number 6. Enslaved for entertainment. The Mojoverse is a realm where all the inhabitants are obsessed with reality television, which actually does sound a bit familiar when you think about it. The Dimensions ruler Mojo controls 72,000 channels, each with dozens of reality shows. Now, these series are a tad different to the likes of Big Brother or Love Island, because here, the losing contestant of any of the shows is sentenced to death.
Maybe
the worst
our
thing
reality
is
shows
there's no
need to
winning
incorporate
here.
these.
If a contestant survives, he or she is inserted into another show,
You
and another,
keep fighting
and
on.
another. Some of Mojo's victims have been forced to play for his amusement for years. Once Mojo
That
has
sounds like
selected
a
his
real
candidates,
champion.
it's a safe bet that they will serve him for the rest of their life, because there's no way to escape, and many of his victims refuse to play the game and accept death willingly. Number 5. Turning into a hound. One of the worst fates that a mutant can endure is slavery. One person who knows all about enslavement is Rachel Summers. Rachel was born into an alternate future where killing mutants was the norm. In this world, the cybernetic hunter Ahab raised Rachel from infancy to be his own personal hound, a brainwashed mutant conditioned to hunt and kill their own kind. Ahab is so sadistic that he keeps his hounds on leashes and brands their faces with unhealable scars. Rachel eventually broke free from her sick master's.
There's so many stories that I don't even know that I want to read so bad. Oh my god, I need so much more.
Controlled and traveled to the present timeline, hoping to prevent her apocalyptic future from becoming a reality. Even after she's made a home with the X-Men, she was consumed by guilt and shame for all of the lives that she took while under his control.
Not your fault,
She also
though,
lives
my
in
dear.
constant terror that Ahab's programming will reactivate, causing her to turn back into a mutant
Or that
hunter.
he'd
Number
return
4.
to you.
Discovering your existence kills people.
What?
Ultimate X-Men number 41 begins with a teen called Jay walking into school, and then becoming increasingly concerned when he notices that there's no one around his area. Moments after reaching school, Jay witnesses every single student burst into flames before his very eyes.
What?
Days later, Nick Fury locates Jay in a cave
Nick
and has
Fury.
Wolverine track him down. The X-Men explains to the teenager that his mutant gene activated a few days ago and that his power causes his body to radiate toxins, killing all organic life around him. Just by walking the neighborhood the other day, Jay accidentally killed 265 people. Wolverine tries to reassure him, saying that no one will know that he is responsible because a cover story will blame the deaths on a gas leak. Even though Jay was a victim of his mutation, Wolverine knew that killing him would be a mercy. As the kid cries hysterically,
And he's
all
not
Wolverine
wrong.
can say is, "Sorry, kid," before putting him down. Number 3.
Oh my god, that's so horrible. Walking failing nuclear reactor. Oh my god. Oh, the pit of despair would feel in my stomach. Wolverine was right, and the ending is a mercy for that kid.
3. Destroying the timeline. In many alternate futures, the X-Men failed to bring peace to mutant kind, forcing them to go back in time and try again. Future mutant Bishop was sent to the present to help the X-Men prevent Armageddon. And what did he do? Well, he shot Professor X in the head and tried to murder a mutant baby. That's like the total opposite of saving the world, dude. When Charles Xavier's son, Legion, convinced himself that the world would be better if Magneto never existed, he went back in time to kill the Master of Magnetism as a young man.
I doubt
Instead,
that logic
he
works,
accidentally
my
killed
friend.
his father, causing the world to fall into disarray, which
That's
allowed
even worse.
Apocalypse to take over North
He made
America.
his job much
Number
easier.
2. Transforming into a brood. The Brood
What?
are a hive-like alien race that impregnate their victim with eggs that, upon hatching, transmogrifies the host into broods themselves. Over the millennia, these 8-foot-long parasites have conquered 10,000 worlds and converted 6 trillion life forms into drones. Now, as it goes, the X-Men try their best not to take a life unless it's absolutely necessary.
This is absolutely
because
necessary.
they understand the nature of the Brood, they are aware that each of these creatures are actually victims.
But they're dead.
But when they are being attacked by
done.
thousands or millions
them.
of broods simultaneously, the superheroes have no choice but to unleash lethal force
Finish
against
them.
them.
Yes.
The only thing worse
That's
than
not even a
fighting these
discussion.
malicious insectoids is becoming one. The transformation
God.
process
I would-
expunges one's personality, turning the host into a mindless killer. Wolverine has slaughtered several people because he knew that they were about to be consumed by
He's
the
doing
Brood,
them a favor.
because he believed that death was a better fate.
I would ask him to do
and
that
number
as
one,
well.
simply being Wolverine. Now, tragedy is a package deal with
that's
superheroes.
insulting.
Spider-Man, Hulk, the Punisher, their entire life is defined by loss and grief. However, no superhero has gone through 1/10 of what Wolverine has endured. If you thought that losing his memory during Weapon X was bad, you haven't even heard the half of it. When he was a boy, he accidentally murdered his father, which left his mother so traumatized she took her own life. Shortly after, he accidentally killed his first love, Rose. Although he was left a rabid animal thanks to Weapon X, he was eventually rehabilitated and taken in by the X-Men. Sadly, his problems only worsened. During his tenure as a superhero, he's been crucified, nuked, had his skeleton pulled out, and ripped in half and eaten a little bit by the Hulk. What's worse is that Wolverine knows that his existence makes his loved ones' lives a living hell. His enemies have tormented the metal bone mutant by kidnapping his teammates, murdering his lovers, brainwashing his son, turning his clone into a killing machine, and tricking him into slaughtering his teammates and even his own children. So yeah, being Wolverine, it kind of sucks.